Let's debate it right now. We want to bring in Danielle DiMartino Booth, Jonathan Hoenig, and Sabrina Schaefer. Sabrina, we've seen some of these left-leaning economists actually, I guess, lay out this sort of theme for Hillary Clinton ahead of this speech that a Donald Trump presidency would actually be disastrous, although that doesn't reconcile with his business record.
Well, look, Charles, I mean, the reality is that Donald Trump has not served in public office, so his business record is fair game for Hillary to go after. The question is that we don't really know how he would govern, and the thing that we do know is we know how Hillary would govern, and it wouldn't be good. I mean, we know that she would micromanage wages and benefit packages. We know that she would, double down on health care policy and energy regulations that are hurting consumers and hurting the energy sector. So there's a lot that we know about her, and so this is, in a way, it's a little bit dangerous that she's kind of going out on a ledge here.
Although, Jonathan, it is dangerous, I see poll after poll where she doesn't poll that far from Donald Trump on the economy. I think, however, maybe in this latest poll, the last couple, he's got maybe an 8-9 point lead on her. It's surprising, though, to Sabrina's point, that she wants to focus on this part of the campaign.
Well, I think Donald Trump's business credibility, Charles, is actually very much in question. I mean, one of the major rating agencies has come out and warning about the possibility of enacting some of Donald Trump's plans. I mean, forget even his business credibility, in which basically a campaign is built. I mean, there's a lot of lawsuits, Charles, as you know. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of bankruptcies. But even his policies aren't really free market. And I think that's why he's having a real trouble getting any of the base. Hillary is the devil we know.
What specifics about his plans, though, would make this rating agencies or even someone like yourself afraid? It wouldn't be the low interest rates. It wouldn't be less regulation. It wouldn't be things like that.
Charles, I think to begin with, it would be something like his threat of tariffs, punitive tariffs, or the higher taxes on hedge fund managers. Or his antithesis to a flat tax historically, or his advocacy for a one-time tax, distributive tax from the rich to save Social Security. This is not a free market capitalist. Hillary is the devil we know. And you know what? The stock market, 4 more years of Obama, Charles, the stock market's done pretty well under President Obama. Even you would admit that.
The stock market's done well, but it's not necessarily correlate with the American economy, where we haven't seen 3% GDP growth. Millions of people have fled the job market. And Danielle, we see Janet Yellen right now being grilled on Capitol Hill because a lot of people say the only reason we haven't sunk is because of this extraordinary efforts on the Fed's part.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I think it's a little ironic that Yellen is up on the Hill today when Clinton is getting ready to attack Trump on his economic policies. I think that a Trump presidency would be prohibitively expensive for the American taxpayer, and that she has every plan in her mind to keep Janet Yellen in power and, in fact, to double down on the doves on the Federal Open Market Committee so that she's ensured 4 more years of basically 1.8% borrowing costs for the country so that she can ram through all of her economic plans.
When you say Donald Trump's plans would be expensive, do you mean you're arguing that these low rates means less revenue to the federal coffers and the money has to come from somewhere? You're not buying the supply side argument.
No, in fact, I think that Trump has recognized in recent months that interest rates have to be normalized come what may, and I think that that's actually a brave stance for him to take, recognizing that if we go down this path of what the senators are grilling her on right now, could we possibly see negative interest rates? I think he's recognizing that the Federal Reserve has overstepped its bounds on behalf of the Democratic Party to keep this financing machine going. So I don't side with Trump on every issue, and I certainly don't like some of his views on trade, but I do like his recognition that the Federal Reserve has been basically a facilitator for the Democratic Party these past 8 years.
And yet, Sabrina, Donald Trump has echoed recently that he likes rates low right now, in part because he doesn't think the economy can handle a sharp increase in them. So to a certain degree, you're kind of having it both ways. But under what Donald Trump has proposed, these extraordinarily low tax rates, to the average small business out there sounds phenomenal. To the average worker out there sounds phenomenal. And of course, bringing back jobs to America. These are the crux of his financial positions. They echo loud and clear, particularly in swing states, the Rust Belt area. Is there anything that you see that he cannot achieve with those plans?
Well, look, I mean, I think that he has surrounded himself with some very smart economists, people like Steve Moore or Larry Kudlow. I mean, I think that these men are going to be able to help establish a tax policy that is good. The one thing that I think that he should be out there saying is that Hillary Clinton is saying, look, Washington ought to be creating jobs for Americans. And what he ought to be saying is, no, Washington should be getting out of the way so that the private sector can invest properly and create jobs on its own in the ways that it needs to. That's how we're going to spur economic growth. That's how we're going to have more economic opportunity and flexibility. That's what I would like to be hearing from him.
What do you think, Sabrina, on the notion that Donald Trump almost declaring war on individual companies, from Amazon, and some of that, of course, I think with the ownership of the Washington Post, Carrier, Ford, Apple, you're going to make them bring back manufacturing to this country again. Right. To the Midwest, this sounds wonderful. I lost my job in a factory 6 years ago. You're going to put one back in my backyard, and we'll make iPhones here. We know from a pure capitalistic point of view, this is a slippery slope.
Oh, absolutely, Charles. Look, I think it's important to separate out Donald Trump, the candidate, from the Trump movement, because there are a lot of Americans out there who have lost jobs and who are hurting and who are rightfully angry at Washington politicians and their policies. But I agree with you. I think that Donald Trump is sounds out of touch when he suggests that we can manipulate from here in Washington what Apple decides to do, where they want to manufacture their iPhones. There's two sides to the ledger, right? It's not just being able to have jobs, it's also having affordable goods and services, and that's really important.
Jonathan, I know you want to jump in on this, but let me just stop you for a second because I've got breaking news I want to share with you guys.